As Eric has just said, I'm from McKinnon Secondary College. That's sort of my day job, but I do a lot of consulting and I have a very sort of flexible role there at the school. I'm the systems manager there, so I look after all the IT, and that's kind of my background, is in IT provision and IT strategy for all sorts of schools and systems across Australia, from Catholic education to Seventh-day Adventist, but it's mainly in the secondary space. This is sort of one of the only things I've done with the tertiary space, so I'm looking forward to sort of seeing how we can relate what we're doing. But yeah, analytics is sort of becoming the new hot topic in secondary education, and probably tertiary education as well. But it's not just what we're looking at today, which will be kind of the analytics of resources and of materials and things like that, but also analytics of student welfare and analytics of tracking students and mapping students across their time throughout the school, and also looking at the school as a whole more broadly with analytics as well. So we're looking at a whole raft of things, but today we're going to focus in on Google Analytics, which we've used at McKinnon Secondary College for quite some time. We were one of the first schools to go Google in Australia, and we were also the first school to go one-to-one Chromebooks as well. So we're very invested down that path, and it's given us a great exposure to a lot of the tools that Google has to offer. So yeah, we're going to get started, and hopefully today I'm going to leave you with three real key pieces of information. First is sort of how to read the analytics and the measurements that Google Analytics can take. The second is we're going to look at how to install Google Analytics, so the actual steps to get it on your website. So we're going to be very practical about it today. And the third part is how to understand, I guess, or get some visibility on what stuff everyone's tracking about you when you visit websites. Because it is quite shocking the amount of information that we can glean off just a so-called anonymous tracking of information. It's pretty interesting. So hopefully it'll give you a bit of a broader understanding of how analytics are used on the web, and also some understanding of how to do it yourself. So Google Analytics is just a package that tracks websites, or any sort of web platform. So that might be a WordPress blog, that might be a Google site, it might be a Blogger blog, or just your own website. You can kind of install it into any kind of web property that you might have. Some LMSs even support it. So I think it's Blackboard's or Moodle here. Blackboard. So I think Blackboard supports it as well, depending on what version you're on. Everyone seems to run a different version, but yeah, it'll let you sort of track your web properties. So what I'm going to do now, we're just going to jump straight in and have a look at some analytics. I'm going to look at a VCE PE site. Actually, before we do that, I'm just going to show a quick video about, this is a video I did about a year ago on the way analytics was being used with one of our VCE PE sites at McKinnon. So we'll start with that, and then I'll show you the website, and then we'll have a look at some of the analytics.
So Tim, welcome. So you've been using Google Analytics with your class websites, like your Google sites, to sort of measure.
Get some more volume on that, is that possible?
The impact and how you're sort of building your curriculum. I just sort of wanted you to take us through, firstly, the Google site, how you're working with the Google site, and secondly, what Google Analytics, what role that's playing in how you're building that curriculum and in the class, and also on the site outside of class.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the first thing, I guess, is the Google site itself. It was basically designed for VCE PE, and last year we decided to put it together with all the Google apps that we were being presented with at school. And so from that, I've broken down the course into different areas of study, and they are the topic areas that come up on the left side of the screen. And from that, I guess with phys ed, like a lot of what we do, we want to do practically. We want to do at school, we want the kids to be doing things, so we don't want them to be coming to class and necessarily going through PowerPoints, going through notes. We want them to hopefully do some of that at home. And so the Google site's been given us a great platform to put all our resources on the Google site so that they can then download whatever we've got at home. I guess probably the biggest benefit of it has been the fact that the YouTube clips, we don't have enough time to show them in class and then go through them. So if we put them on the site, then they can review them in their own time.
Yeah, fantastic. So that's sort of the website portion of what we're talking about. But I think where you're doing something different is this analytics, like being able to see who's coming into your site, and how do you use that? Like, how's that been useful?
Well, the biggest problem I had when I developed this was that I was putting in so much time and effort to creating a site, and I had no way of gauging whether the kids were going into it, whether they would download the information. And so I wanted something that was going to give me that information, give me some feedback about what they were doing.
Yeah, so those sort of measurements are giving you kind of an insight into how those kids are working with the materials you're putting online.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of it is, like you said, it's probably more reassuring in terms of there is actually a lot of traffic going to our sites, and we are seeing some peaks and troughs at certain times, which is giving us some great advice about maybe why and the reason why they're going at certain times, which probably gives us more feedback about what information the kids will need based on those times. So I'm talking about assessment tasks, because they're the times when kids really want more information, they want to practice, they want to make sure that before a test they are 100% confident and ready.
So they'll go back and review through the site, and you can sort of see and gauge how much of that's going on.
Yeah. And that's what we're seeing, is that at times when we have assessment tasks, there is a high level of traffic going to the website, especially the night before.
Okay, so, yeah. That's interesting. So maybe we can have a look at that. So this is obviously the website. You've got all your sections down here. But if we flick into Google Analytics for a second, so this is the homepage, effectively, is it?
Yeah, this is the main page that gives us some basic information about how many users are coming to the website. I tend to sort of focus on more of the content pages in terms of total visits.
So I think under behaviour, site content, there's a breakdown of that. So this is the stuff you're interested in, like how many visits you're getting on each page.
So the big thing is this graph here, which is giving us information about how many users. We can't see specifically who they are, but I can see that there's a total number of students, and the feedback that you want with VCE is all related to improving results. And with our subject, it's all about the exam at the end of the year. And really, at this time of year, it is prime time to see what information these kids are trying to access.
So this is great. You can even see average time on the page, so you can see how long they're staying on that page. Is that useful too?
Yeah, I think on a lot of our pages you'll see a lot of YouTube clips. You'll see a lot of resources there. So the time spent there means that hopefully they're using the YouTube clips, or they're spending some time going through the resources. But all of the pages are different, and I guess the biggest feedback I get from this is that the topics that come up, so that next year when I'm planning my course, I can understand that, okay, these kids are going to these pages, these topics, because they don't understand that well, or they need more information on it. But even just at the moment, getting this sort of feedback, I didn't have anything before, and it really stressed me out about my time management and what I prioritise. And if I'm going to spend 20 hours a week on a website like this, I want to know that it's being used. And so it'll be important next year. It just gives me that reassurance that this is how much they're using it, this is how much capacity it has in terms of how the kids will use it, because I know that they're doing 6 other subjects. It's all about sort of continuous improvement, and I think that's the big thing, is that a phys ed teacher, there's so many websites and things now, kids can get access from anywhere, from any school, and so for them to have that to have a competitive advantage, they need to have teachers who are wanting to improve and wanting to help their students to want to work more, not necessarily just give them more information. I don't want to give them all the work and say, here you go, just do it. I want to give them something that's going to help engage that learning and make them want to go onto other websites and search for more answers and hopefully learn more. And I think Google Analytics gives you that information about their behaviour, like why they're using it and how they're using it, and hopefully that will help guide how we fix it up and improve our Google site for the future.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, so you can see Tim, his sort of priority with the site is to not be wasting his time, and I think that's a big part of, we want to be as productive as possible, but rather than sort of using the analytics to kind of measure what you're doing, just simply measure, it's actually informing him on what information is really relevant to the kids, or what stuff maybe he can get rid of, off his Google site and really kind of fine-tune what he's doing rather than just putting it all up there and kind of hitting and hoping a little bit, which is what traditionally we've always done. So what I'm going to do now is actually have a look at his website. So let's flip over here. We have his PE website. It looks a little different now. And this is where the kids will go for their Unit 3 and 4 of their VCE to do revision. So he has a whole list of his study criteria and his outlines here down the left. So he's got a range of pages with various information on each page. Might be stuff that they've done in class. He's got little cue cards and stuff embedded. He's also got files that they can download relating to the class. So that's kind of an example of a Google site. Is everyone here sort of familiar with Google Sites? Most people, yeah, great. So, so from this Google site, we can take a look at the analytics. So to get to analytics, we go to google.com/analytics, or you can just Google it, Google Analytics. And this is my account at McKinnon, and I have a whole range of sites. What we're going to look at today is the VCE PE Google site. So this is sort of the home page, I guess, of analytics. And what we'll do is have a look at each of these breakdowns here and what they mean. But the first thing we want to notice here in the top right is the date range. So currently we're only looking at a 2-week date range or a month date range or whatever it may be. You can set that yourself. So today's date is the 20th of August. So you can see that today's date is there. Analytics isn't right up to right now. It takes a while for it to kind of compress all that data and put it into this platform. So we'll show you how the live stuff works a little bit later. But for the moment, if I just select maybe the last 3 months of data and press apply, you should see that graph change a little bit. So that's looking at the last 3 months of sessions on the website. So you can see here, Monday, Tuesday there was 2 sessions, Wednesday there was 66. Most likely there's more sessions on the days that he's running his class. So he'll want to see, okay, is this stuff that kids are looking at on the weekends or on the weeknights, or is it stuff they're only really going to in class time? So he can validate whether the site's actually being used in the way that he wants it to be used. So looking at it over the history, you'll see if we actually change the date range right back to say the start of the year, so February to August. You can see it start to kind of spike mid-year when there's exams on, and then it sort of drops off again. And now what we're looking at here is sessions, right? So just to give you a bit of an understanding of the syntax that they use, sessions means that someone's interacting with the website for a period of time. So that will sort of qualify it as a session. So that's not just hitting the website, that's not just going to one page, that's actually navigating the website and using it for a period of time. When they close the website and reopen it, that's a new session. So that should make a little bit of sense. So that's sessions here. We can say over that 3-month period, there's been 2,966 sessions. And there's been 2,704 users. So that's unique hits on the page. That's a little bit misleading because there's probably around about 250 kids involved in that course over a year. So why is it 2,000 users? Because each student has a Chromebook. They usually have a computer at home. They usually have a phone in their pocket. So there's a whole range of devices that are being, that are accessing this website, and analytics tracks all of them. So that's what users means. Page views is simply just how many times the page has been hit. So if you've opened a page and you click onto another page, it's counting that as another page view. I sort of see that as a bit of a vanity metric. It doesn't really mean much, a page view. It's hard to read much into that. So that's why they have this pages per session sort of thing. So the average page depth per session. So averagely people are going in, clicking on 1.24 pages every time they access the site. And then we've got to think about how that number is arrived at. Maybe Tim's sharing out a particular page with the students and they're just going straight to the resources they need, or maybe the stuff's on the home page that they need. But 1.24 is probably about right. Because of this high bounce rate, we'll get to that in a moment. So average session duration, 38 seconds on the site. That's actually pretty high. A lot of people that visit a site leave straight away. So 38 seconds is pretty good. And then the bounce rate. So the bounce rate is basically looking at if someone comes to your website and leaves straight away, that's what Google calls a bounce. So they've hit your website and gone, I didn't want to be there, I need to go somewhere else. So that's a fairly high bounce rate, but to be honest, most websites have a pretty high bounce rate. So often that will mean that something's on the homepage, they've just come to the homepage, seen it, got what they need, clicked the link and moved on. So that will count as a bounce. But yeah, unless they're sort of deep diving into the website and moving around, that's the only time that it won't be called a bounce. So a lot of websites are just one page. So if it's just one page, you get almost 100% bounce rate because everyone will just be looking at that one page and leaving. So that's what they call a bounce rate. Does that kind of make sense, those six metrics they're using there?
Yeah.
Cool. So there's percentage of new sessions as well over time. So the percentage of first-time visitors is meant to be 90.8%, but again, that'll depend on the device type and a whole range of things. I don't tend to use that very much. So that's kind of the overview of our audience, right? So people who are hitting us. Now we can sort of drill down into that audience and have a look at their geolocation, for instance. So if you've got a website that would be viewed outside of Australia, you can see that happens here. So Tim's website most likely has gone a bit crazy in the US. So he actually shares his resources out globally. So that'll explain why those user counts are so high as well, because I haven't actually looked at this, but it's actually hitting a lot of them coming from the US. As part of the continental US. So even in there, we can click on the US and drill a little bit deeper and see which states they're coming from. You see California and Texas.
Exactly, text addiction.
So you can really drill down, even into Texas here.
Texas.
It's a bit hard to see on that projector, but there's actually an outline of the state there and which cities they're coming from. So Houston's got the most. So yeah, the geo stuff's really interesting if you've got. If you've got access to, like if you have courses of maybe a MOOC or something that's a bit more wide-ranging than just Australia. So geo stuff's really good. There's also this thing, demographics, which is relatively new in analytics. It's only been in there, I think, a couple of years now. And it's something that you have to turn on, and I don't have access to it on this site, but we'll come back to it when I look at another website. And then we can look at technology as well. So this is all part of our audience. So how our audience are behaving is a bit different to just measuring the audience. So we're looking at here browser and OS technology. So this is a rundown of sort of how or what browsers people are using to access the site. We'd expect to see Chrome up there, given our school's a Chrome school, and Chrome's typically the most popular browser. So we can see that. We can also look at what network they're coming from, which is pretty crazy. Broadband Solutions is our school's provided internet connections, so that would make sense. Then we have Optus, and so you can start to see how pervasive this stuff is. You can really see a lot of information about how people are coming to your website and where they're coming from. So an extension of that then is mobile technology, so we can look at the mobile access on the page. This is becoming increasingly more useful as everything's kind of going mobile these days and tablet friendly and things like that. So this will give us a breakdown of mobile. You wouldn't expect to see that very high on a site like this because it is typically a site you're using in front of your computer while you're studying or taking notes. And we can actually look at a breakdown of devices as well. See, they're the only devices that have accessed it. 7 iPhones in the last 3 months, 2 OnePluses, and a Samsung Galaxy S5. What I'll do now, I'm just going to switch to our school website, which actually runs on Blogger. So if we have a look at the McKinnon website, this is just a theme for Blogger. So it just runs on Blogger. It has stories of all our events as they've happened. So an event will get covered with some photos and people will put it up. So there's always new content coming online, and it's kind of a really dynamic site. And then we've got links to our services here, so our school management and Google Apps and stuff like that. And we have pages for parents, pages for people looking for information and enrollment information, and people for contacts. So we can actually measure how useful all these pages are, and rank it. Google Analytics will rank those for us. So if we go back into Analytics and have a look at it, if I drop down up here, we've got all the sites that belong to me. We'll look at Blogger website. So here we go. Let's look at the last, say, 3 months again. That's remembered that timeline. You can see here there's a lot of sessions. So if I go back to the overview, got 453,000 sessions in the last 3 months. So I mean, this is a huge website. We get a lot of traffic through it. If I now drill down into the devices stuff, you can see it gets a bit more interesting. So we have a lot more range of devices. You can see there's iPads and iPhones in there. And if you don't know what the device is, you've never heard of an i9507, you can click the photo and it'll show you what it looks like. So this will give you, the average sessions per device, the amount of new users that are coming in on the iPhone or the iPad, the bounce rate. We can click that and sort by new users or sort by bounce rate. You can see, most people are bouncing on these devices. We can look at a breakdown via a graph here. There's a whole range of graphs that we can look at. There's a pie chart of the devices, see which ones are most popular. iPhone, the iPad, and then other. I don't know what other is. So when we're looking at this as well, there was that demographics view that I was showing you earlier. So that's been turned on for our website. You have to enable that, but this stuff is really interesting. Google actually creates a profile of everyone who browses the internet through a process called fingerprinting. So it'll actually fingerprint people and find out information about them. Won't know your name or necessarily your address or something like that, but it'll know that you like to visit, home improvement websites, or you're interested in interior design or something like that. And it'll grow a demographic and try and figure out if you're a male or a female based off big data analysis, or if you're what age group you sit in and things like that. So you can see here the majority of people that visit the site, because it's set as the homepage at McKinnon, are between 18 and 24. So the 18 and 24, they're not allowed to collect data on people under 18, but I think most of the kids probably end up falling in that bracket. So it's not a perfect science or anything like that, but it gives you really interesting, I guess, insight into what's going on.
So like the behaviour enables them to predict whether they're male or female or their age, but so it's not totally accurate,
no.
But it gives you a bit of a...
No, I mean, they haven't put their age in.
No, that's right.
No, so I mean, you couldn't...
So it's which sites they're visiting and...
Yeah, they're building a profile, and then we can use the profile Google's built to kind of monitor what's happening against our website.
But do you need to enable ads to make that occur?
No.
Sorry, Blake, is this based on the IP address that Google Analytics gets from users' connection when they're browsing?
Yeah, so there's a few things. I mean, I don't know exactly the algorithm because it's probably proprietary, but it bases it on where the address is coming from, certainly. So when you're browsing internet right now, Google Analytics can pick up that I'm in the Melbourne vicinity, so that I'm in Melbourne City. If I'm in my suburb, it can pick up I'm in Hyatt or in Moorabbin or wherever I am, but it can't pick up my exact street address. It's based off the address. So the IP address plays a role, but what really plays a role is cookies. So a lot of new websites you'll see that say cookies have been enabled. Are you okay with that? The reason they're asking that is because this is what they can get if you enable the cookies. So there are a lot of websites where they won't collect cookies, and there's also private browsers now where people can block any of this happening. So that's something to keep in mind. Certainly when we're thinking about using this on our website is, no data is going to give you the whole story. It's not going to tell you everything. It's going to help you inform your decision making. And there are going to be people who browse your site that aren't going to get caught by this. There are going to be, use cases and corner cases where Google Analytics won't pick up the correct information. But by and large, I mean, they're pretty good at getting an accurate picture of what's going on. So you can see the sort of breakdown over days now of how those age brackets fit together, how many people from each age bracket are visiting that. And we can even look at the gender, which I don't know how they get this information, but look at the pie chart of that, we see that there's less males, 46% male and 53% female. So demographics is really interesting. It requires a little bit of extra setup to get going. Yep.
Any data on when the information, the site is accessed, like the season, the day of the week, and the time? For example, I mean, if I want to know whether there's a particular pattern of, November, there's a lot of hits, and certain days of the week and certain times of the
sure. So that would be in our overview. We can look at that. So we can look at the daily activity. This is just by days. There's a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. We're just looking at those days, and we can see there's troughs on the weekends. Saturday and Sunday, it's pretty low, but through the week it's very high because students are coming in and using it. So I can just look at, right down to a week. Let's just take it back to a week, and we can see this is, roughly a week's worth of information. So it's got the date there, the amount of sessions. I could change that from sessions to, users. So how many unique users per day? See if they line up and look through that. You can also set up dashboards and things. I'll go into that a little bit later. But I'll just keep going through the other stuff we can measure here as well. There's also a tab here called real time. So this is great, especially in a tutorial setting or a cohort setting. If you've got the students in front of you and you're saying, go to this resource or to my website, we can see live those students come in. So Tim's actually used this in his class where he'll say, I want everyone on this site. And he'll wait, he's got 28 kids in his class, and he'll wait for that to hit 28 before he moves forward. So you can just see where they're coming from. You can see they're in Melbourne, 24 users are all from McKinnon at the moment. See the top referrals, so where they're coming from, edutest.com.au, they must have a link to our website. And Better Education, I assume they have a link to our website. And you can see the top pages they're hitting, so 80% are hitting the slash page. Slash just means the home page, so the very first kind of page. And we have, the M=1, that's the mobile site. So that means that, 7% of people browsing are most likely on mobile phones. So the live analytics is great. It's not so good for reporting and sort of driving insight into things, but if you just want to get a quick overview of what's going on, or if you're having an issue with your site and you want to see if anyone's actually on it, it's a very helpful tool to do that. So that's kind of the audience and the real-time stuff. There's more tabs down here as well under acquisition, so how the users are getting to your site. This is really interesting if you've got something you're trying to market. It's more of a business tool, but it could be useful if you're looking at cross-linking between websites, or how useful internal websites are to driving traffic to your Google site or your blog. So we can see here in the acquisition overview, we've got organic search. So that means someone's typed McKinnon Secondary College into Google, and if I click organic search, I can actually look at what search terms are being used to find the website. So the top one is McKinnon Secondary College, or not provided. I'm not actually sure what that means. I never figured that out, but this will give you an insight into how people are finding your site. So often if they might be typing like good ideas for computer science graduates or something, that might be a keyword that you want to improve if you're trying to get your site found by a search engine. So beyond search engine, there's direct. So that's me going new tab and typing in the address directly. So direct's pretty high for us because our homepage is set to the McKinnon homepage. So that's just direct traffic. It didn't come from anywhere. It just got typed straight in. Then we have referral, and this is through a web referral, so a web link. So we have Google being a big referral there. Floating share buttons, so that's a website that's obviously driving a bit of traffic through a series of websites. So iNewsletter is our online newsletter platform, so that's one of our top referrals back to the website. People are looking at the newsletter and they want to go check out the website. And then, yeah, like we saw before, Better Education has driven people to the site. If we actually click on Better Education, we can see which page it was that drew them to the site. If I go back, sorry, there's a little share button next to that page, or open button. It'll open the page that supposedly has the link. This will work 95% of the time. Sometimes it won't, depending on if that link can actually be followed. So this one can't be followed because someone's done a search for our school and then clicked through. So that's sort of a session, something inside their session which we can't get access to. So if I go back now to the acquisition overview, there's a fourth type which might be interesting, especially just talking about connected studios this morning, and that sort of drive towards a more social sharing environment. We can look at where the networks are coming from, the social shares. So Facebook's usually the biggest, it's the biggest social network. So if we have a look at Facebook, we can see not much about it really. We can't look into Facebook. Facebook keep all their pages kind of untrackable is what they call it. So they have like a no track set up on all their web pages so that Google can't track them. So any website can be set up to have no track on it. We won't go into that today because it's a bit technical, but if that is something you're concerned about after this, often people see this and get really concerned about their browsing behavior, activities and things, and the amount of information companies are getting for free effectively off you. There is a way to set up your browser with no track. So yeah, we see those social shares and which platforms people are coming from. So that'll be like a post on Facebook, a post on Google Plus or Reddit or Twitter or whatever it may be, someone's clicked through and ended up on your site. That's where they've come from. So that's what acquisition is all about, how people are being acquired into your site. There's also other things in there like search engine optimization to help you improve that acquisition through Google or Bing or whatever it might be. And then we see there's AdWords as well and a few other things. So the last part of the puzzle is the behaviour part of the puzzle. So once they've been acquired onto your site and you've noticed that they've come on, well, what are they doing on your website? How are they behaving on the website? So here we have a whole range of things we can do, which is really interesting. So the first one is behaviour flow. So this will break down each user. I think I've set it to a week, so there's not too much information, which is good. Where they arrive, so they arrive on the home page. Here they arrived on the mobile site. Mobile site directs them back to the home page. We can just scroll across and see what happens on each interaction. So the first interaction was to go to this page, and the second interaction was to go then through to this page, and we can see the amount of people that drop off. So here you can see there's not a lot of visitor flow going on. They usually get to the home page and go where they want to go. So this is probably one of the top stories. That was winter concert tickets, so parents are probably purchasing tickets there, all the way down here. And then, typically there's probably 2 clicks and then they're off the website. So we're not seeing any significant activity beyond 2 clicks, so it's not showing us anything there. Here the McKinnon Zone is like the most popular page on the website because it's the zone you have to be in to get into McKinnon, so that's usually a good one for outside traffic. You can see everyone drops off after that, hitting that site. If I click on that, I can highlight the traffic through here. I can see where they've come in. So they've come into the zone website and then hit 100 different pages. So that means they've gone into 100 different areas, and then they've gone into a second interaction into some other pages. And you can really drill down to that. I'm not going to go into that in too much depth today, but that's a useful tool if you're looking at, well, okay, people are dropping off, people are bouncing off the website, but where are the people going that are staying? Maybe we can bolster that, or maybe we can look at the pages that never get reached and remove those. So that's the behavioural flow. We also have site content, which is what Tim was talking about in that video. He's talking about where the pages that have been optimised. So this is kind of probably one of the most useful parts of Google Analytics, where we can see the top pages ranked by page views at this point. I could rank them by unique page views, or we can add a secondary dimension in there. We can sort of manipulate this however we'd like. So we can put page views against sessions, against entrances, or percent exit, or page value, which is an AdWords value of that page. You can actually set up goals inside of here and say every time someone hits a certain page or does a certain visitor flow, I'm going to say that that's a goal. So I can try and make 10 goals a week or something like that. So if I'm a marketer, that's brilliant for me. So yeah, looking at the top pages, we see the home page and the mobile home page. We see winter concert tickets in this week as being the biggest. If I go and change that date range to include a lot more events, you see that winter concert disappears and the zone starts to become the most popular page. If we look at it over the whole year, the zone is the most popular page, but even so, winter concert tickets are still hanging in there here with almost 1,000 views. And again, we can click that little button there, go and have a look at the page that people are looking at, and this is the page that they're all looking at. So the last part of this is probably the easiest to understand, which is the in-page analytics. So right down the bottom of the behaviour tab, we have in-page analytics. And what this does, hopefully it works today, sometimes it's a bit shaky, but this will actually load the web page inside the browser, inside of Google Analytics, and show me where people are clicking over the top of the web page. So that's really cool. I don't know if it's going to load today. It has problems sometimes. Here we go. So right here we see the percentages. So it's not always totally accurate, like it thinks 73% have clicked up here, which is not entirely true. They've probably clicked here and gone home, but it does give you a good overview of where people are clicking. So this story's got 1.8% of the entire views. So 1.8% of people are clicking on that.
Sorry, Blake, so you could probably use this as a rudimentary heat map of some sort.
You can, absolutely. So you're looking at the colour, you click show colour, and it'll give you a heat map of where people are clicking when they hit the home page. So if I was to go into follow this visitor flow and get out of that for a moment, look at in-page analytics on actually, let's open it up again. Takes a moment. So again, all of this is happening under this filter, under the time filter that I've set up. So I can move that time filter at any point to change sort of the period of time that I'm looking at. So to answer the gentleman's question at the back, that we can look at a specific week and say, what was the visitor flow in that week or that day even, and drill right down into that. So the last thing that's interesting as well is their experience on the website. So this is the browser size that I've just clicked up here. I'll just turn those bubbles off for a moment. We can see that this is like what it looks like. So that grouping there, you know, gives you a percentage. So 73% of people can see down to there, 89% of people can see out to here. So that's like the screen size of the laptops that are visiting your site. It's really interesting to kind of see their experience. So if you've built a site that's too big for their screen, that might explain why your latest stats have gone down since you updated the site. So it's really good as you're evolving your website or if you're changing things, this can really validate those changes and help you kind of have insight into what maybe you want to change next or why things are going well or going badly. So yeah, that's probably one of the most easiest ways to kind of get an indication of that.
Sorry, one question.
Yeah.
Does it tell you how long it takes for a page to load, so that, you know, if some sites take longer, therefore you might want to review the page?
Page load time? No, this this does actually tell you in here 5.31, but yeah, actually I think it does now. Thank God there's a search up the top here as well. If you're looking for something like that, in the top left there's this new search thing they've added. They added that recently, and it's great because there's so many reports, things you can do. So I can't see an access to it there, but if we set up a custom dashboard, it is a metric here, the average page load time. It says it's 5.31 seconds. So we could probably set up a custom dashboard which could compare that load time to your bounce rate or to something like that. Because for you it might be really slow, but for someone else it might be really fast, so you kind of have to take that into account. So that's the in-page analytics. So that kind of draws to a close, I guess, the exploratory of what's possible in analytics and what you can really look at and manipulate, I guess, to meet your goals. So what we'll look at now is how to actually add this functionality into your website. So there's a few ways we can do it, and we're going to start with a Google site. I think most people are pretty familiar with Google sites, so we'll start there.
Can I ask, has it been switched on for our MOT? There we come, that might be a question for Eric. Because so many of the apps that are definitely on.
It's not on.
It's not on?
But you can access it a different way.
Yeah.
I can show it, we can send it out later. You can access it a different way.
Okay, so if I look at a test website, I've just got a random Google website here that I've probably created for a PD that I was running. So this is a website, doesn't necessarily have to have much on it. I can go to set up, manage my site. The great thing about Google Sites is analytics is kind of natively handled within Google Sites, so we don't have to go and do any custom coding or anything like that. All we do is we go to manage site, and down the bottom here there's a statistics section, and it asks for an analytics web property ID. That will normally be blank. So what I would do is then sign into Google Analytics. So I would go to this website, google.com/analytics, and then I would create a new account from the admin panel. So I'd go in here and say create a new account. And all of this hopefully will be being captured in the video, so don't feel as though you have to remember it. So I just set up the name and I call this, I'm just going to call this test. You have to put a website name in there. Just do the same thing. And then it needs the URL of the website, so we'll go back here and grab that page, grab that URL from my Google site, paste that in there. It asks you to select a category or an industry. I think that helps them drive like a bit more insight into that demographic stuff. We're not going to select that for the moment. We will set our time zone, so we're making sure we're collecting the correct time zone. You can have a look into all the privacy policies and everything else. It's telling me the URL is invalid. I've got in terms of service, make sure we agree to the Australian terms of service. Okay, so once it does that, it lands us on this page with the tracking ID. So that's that tracking ID that we want to install into site. So if I copy that, go over to my site, I click on the cog, manage site. Down the bottom here, we've got that analytics or statistics area. I paste in this tracking ID that I've just created. If I press save now, the next person who loads that page will also load the Google Analytics script in the background, which starts doing things like collecting their browser information and their load times and all those things we've just looked at. So if I now go back to my site and load the page, in the background, that's loaded. I don't know about it, but it's actually loaded Google Analytics. If I head back now to my Google Analytics page, go to the newly created test site and click all website data here, we can see it's in my list. This one, all website data. You can see that there's nothing coming up because it takes about, I don't know, a few hours to crunch all that data that it's collecting on the visitors and put it into this panel, but of course we've got that real time. So this is a great way to validate that it's actually working. I'm currently on the site, so it sees that I'm here. If I change pages or go to the sitemap of the page, that will update and say that I've gone to the sitemap. There it goes. So it's changed where I am currently. So you can see within a couple of seconds it's right up to date. So that validates that I've got it installed, and now anyone who visits my site, it will start to track. You've got to remember, once you install it, it starts to track your website. You can't do it retroactively. You can't sort of set up analytics on your website and hope that it'll find the last 5 or 10 years of people visiting. It only happens from the time that you set it up. It's a question I get a lot. So. Yeah, so that's how you install it on a Google site. If you wanted to install it on a Blogger site, it's a very similar setup. Yep.
Let me ask one question. If you use the same code in different web pages.
Say that again.
If you use the same code, the same Google Analytics,
yep,
in different web pages, you put that code in 2 or 3.
You can put it in 2 or 3. It'll just get very confusing with the active page and things like that. But you can do it. You can also set up multiple codes for one sort of account. Where I created that account, I can set up 3 codes if I have 3 different websites relating to one topic or something like that. So you can do that, and it'll separate out where they're coming from. It'll probably just confuse it if you put the same code into it.
It will not be recommended, right?
No, not recommended. You could do it, but I've not actually done it. So, but it's designed so you can have one kind of category that you set up, and you can create multiple codes for that category. So you could have 3, 4, 5, 10, 100 websites, doesn't matter.
Oh, you can do that, okay.
Yeah. And all this is free, by the way, free to anyone. So not just us as educational institutions, it's free for anyone to do on their personal website or whatever you'd like. So to set it up on Blogger, Blogger is actually really interesting because if you set up a Blogger account, it actually has, you can see our school websites on the Blogger account. I can have a look at the settings of my Blogger account. There actually is an area called Stats by default. So without doing anything, it kind of has a distilled down version of Google Analytics. So if you're looking to not go that deep, you just want to sort of stay at the surface level of top pages, and this kind of picks out the things that people most want to see, where the audience is coming from, what the top posts were, this sort of stuff. So we can see this looking at the weekly view. I can go monthly view, all time, and you can see when the website came online there. That's just kind of a brief overview of the statistics. So we actually set up analytics separately, so we've put that into our template so we can pull out the real detailed stuff.
Sorry, Blake, is this native to Blogger, or is this sort of an add-on?
This is just in Blogger. So these statistics, these basic statistics, are just part of Blogger.
Sure.
Yeah. So just be aware of that. If you've got a Blogger blog, it's already collecting this stuff in the background anyway. So that could be really handy for you. So there's Blogger blogs, and then the last type is like a HTML blog, and I'm not going to go too deep into that except to show you get back. When we first set up our code, our tracking ID, it gives us this script here. We just paste that HTML anywhere on the web page, and it'll start doing that tracking on our web page. So you want to make sure that's on all the pages that people are visiting, so it can see the visitor flow and do all that stuff. But typically, if you're using WordPress or Blogger or Google Sites or any of those big kind of products, there's usually a way just to put that tracking ID straight in. I know Tumblr does it as well, I think. So if you just have a look through the settings, there'll usually be a Google Analytics tracking ID. Google Analytics is like the industry standard. There's not really anything that comes close to it in terms of its feature set. So most people just support that one product.
So Blake, that script could that be, to your knowledge, a method for tracking someone else's website?
Well, you would have to install it in their website.
Maybe drop that script as a comment, HTML or something like that.
No, there's no real way to do that on a managed platform. If they had an insecure website, you could. If that allowed people to run scripts on it and stuff like that, you potentially could. But
it's a research method I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And if this government site cost $2 million, how much is being used?
You'd like to measure it, yeah. Well, shouldn't that be public information? I'm sure they're tracking it. Most government sites are tracked, so you can actually see if it's tracked. We can have a chat about that afterwards. You can see if it's running. The Google Analytics tracking is running on a website. It's a bit techy, but you can search that out. So that's basically the overview. So yeah, the one thing that sort of comes up time and time again is, like if I have a class or a student cohort, 100 students in my classes, how do I know which ones are accessing? Right? So there's no real unique identifying username or anything like that. It doesn't give me a name. Is it Joe or John or whoever's actually accessed my website? So it's not kind of, I guess it's meant to still be anonymous in a way. It's not tracking each individual student. If you wanted to do that, you need a custom product or have to use Blackboard or an LMS or something like that. So that's sort of one limitation with it. And as I was saying earlier, it can't always capture video visitors. So some visitors may come from a browser that has no track on. Some of them may come from a network that doesn't allow tracking. Some of them may come from a country where Google Analytics has an issue with privacy with that country, and they're not allowed to track people from that country. So there are like dead countries you'll never see people come from. There's a whole list of them on the website. And some LMS platforms may not support Google Analytics as well. So you'll have to look into Blackboards and see if that's a possibility on your Blackboard sites. Some support it, some don't. So just be aware of that as well. Because this is a custom script from an external source, being Google, you can't always run it on your website. So that's pretty much it. We can either have some time for questions, or I can show you how to do some more advanced reporting with it.
Yeah, my question is about reports actually. Like, can you set it up so that, say once a month or whenever, you will get a little email pinged into your inbox which gives you, the stats that you want to look at?
Yeah, there's a whole reporting set up in here. I think you... This is how you can export it all as like a spreadsheet, but there's a PDF report you can set up. I think it moved it on me. So if we create a dashboard can pull in any kind of metrics we want to compare to each other, so we can make custom ones of what we've just seen. So we can put, the site flow against the acquisition, something like that, if there's something interesting we'd like. So once you create a dashboard, I'm pretty sure inside the dashboard there's a way to automate a report that comes out of that dashboard. So it'll take whatever's on that dashboard and it'll push that to a PDF once a week, once a month, or whatever you'd like. I haven't actually set that up for a while. It looks like it might be a bit different to what it was. I don't know, it might take me a while to set one up to show you, but
Blake, while you're setting that up, we have about 5 to 6 minutes left, so we can continue with questions. And before you leave, we have plenty of lunch, so please make sure you grab something if you need to leave. But we'll spend another 5 to 6 minutes or so. Blake will be here for the next period of time as well. You can ask him some more questions.
There's an email frequency with Blake in one of the options.
Where was that?
If you go back to the dashboard view, I think there's an in the email button.
This one.
Isn't that frequent? There's frequency.
Oh, okay, there it is, yeah. Don't move that. So it looks like you can send it weekly, monthly, quarterly, and you can set up. Yeah, okay. That must be how it works, yeah. It definitely can be done. It definitely can be done. Another thing on that as well, which is interesting, a lot of people ask me about, is these things called intelligence events. I haven't gone into them today, but you can set up a custom alert where you can say, if this happens, email me or SMS me. So that might be the visitors change over a week by 200, up or down. I want to know about that. So you can set up like really custom alerts. You can see this applies to all traffic based off sessions when a condition is decreases more than 500 views, in the same day in the previous week, something like that. So you can really, set up notifications to be on the pulse with everything that's going on with your site. It's probably a little bit too far. Like I don't know how many people would actually use that who aren't, running their whole life through a website. But it is an option that's there. If there's something you want to track, if there's a specific goal you're trying to meet, it could be very useful. Yeah.
That email PDF, is that the only way you might be able to make publicly accessible your analytics? Ideally, you know how in the old days you used to have page counts at the bottom of every website displayed their page count.
Yeah.
And these days we don't get that sort of thing, but it would be nice to have a link if you wanted to make available the information. Is it the PDF only way you can think of?
That is a good question. You can share your analytics account with any Gmail account, but obviously that's not public. There's
PDF it to it.
Yeah, I guess creating a PDF email and sending that to a list, or attaching that on your website or something would be probably the most direct way to do it. There are like widgets inside Google Sites that will give you your page count, and that just pulls straight out of Google Sites when the page loads. So that's probably the only two things I can think of off the top of my head, but it's such a huge product that I'm sure there probably is a way to do it.
Yeah.
Does this kind of talk to Google Classroom at all? Because you said earlier, like one of the things I'd love to do is obviously track students, and if there's a failure, and I know you can do that to a certain degree within Blackboard currently, but do you know if that's happening in Google? Because obviously if this did talk to Google Classroom, that might be a workaround for keeping tabs on students.
Classroom, like any LMS, is reliant on having a setting for Google Analytics, and it doesn't at the moment. So I reckon they probably will add that. It's still a new product, so I think analytics is going to be a big part of what every educator is doing. So I think that that'd be silly not to have some kind of stats down the line. But given it's such a new product, I'm not sure. No, Google don't tell you anything about their product releases. They just drop them on you and you have to figure it out. But I can't see a way at the moment. I don't know, Classroom doesn't really do tracking at all at the moment. It does it on the assessments. You can submit and receive assessments with Google Classroom, but there's no real tracking of students who's logged in, when do they log in, when do they view stuff, which is a shame. But I think it'll definitely go down that path. Is there one in the back?
Coming back to the question that the gentleman did, is there any way that does this Google aggregates the time and date where the site is more accessed? Like, it's true that I can see the week and I can see the whole thing, but going through the mouse around myself is a lot of work. Does it say, Tuesday at 10 p.m. is the time that has more visits or not?
You want to see the top times that it's been visited?
Yeah, top times, top days, right? Top days, because it's important to see when is the best time to put a material, for instance, or to put a quiz. And that's something I want. I know you can navigate yourself, but...
Yep. So when you're creating a dashboard and you add metrics, you can set filters. So you could say, only show a date that is exceeding 1,000 or is in the top 20% of my views. So you could find those, and then you could see that graph of which days, and you'd be able to immediately identify which days are the most popular days. So you could do something like that. There's no real way to sort by popularity of day that I've seen. By all means, have a play that might be in there, but I haven't seen that. And I know that with dashboards, they can really be as in-depth as you'd like. You can compare anything to anything. You can filter anything, any value that's in there you can filter. So it's extremely extensible.
Out of curiosity, one of the tasks that that my colleague and I work on is tracking the number of dead links that are on the RMIT web presence and where, I suppose, where the link is found or where the link goes to. Is there a way to have something set up where we can look at the page, where we can get recorded the page before you reach the 404 and the page where the 404 is?
Yes. So if you have a 404 page set up, I'm assuming you do. So if it's not just taking you to nowhere, if it's actually taking you to a 404 page, you can look at that visitor flow. You can say filter by the 404 page, and you can see where they enter, what they do, and when they hit the 404 page. It's kind of like the process. So that can be really handy. Finding dead links on a huge website. That's very.
So this would have something to do with setting up your own report or dashboard. Is that the case?
No, you just filter this site flow. So I think that was in behavior flow. So when you add a segment here, you can filter that by the 404 page. So you can find that 404 page. I think that's 11:30 now, so I want to be respectful of everyone's time. But I'm here if anyone wants to ask me questions or drill a bit deeper.
That was wonderful. Thank you very much.